Enlightened investors, I have some exciting news for those looking to dive into the world of passive real estate investing. Many have asked how I got my start in commercial real estate investing. Well, it all began with an event close to my heart. Multifamily Live is back, and this time it's online. This event holds a special place for me because it's where I got my start in commercial real estate investing. Imagine a virtual gathering where you can gain invaluable insights into how cash flow ready apartment buildings are the key to your passive income journey. Take the mystery out of passive real estate investing and step into the active side of the equation to gain a comprehensive understanding so you can invest passively with confidence. Whether you're a newbie or a seasoned investor, Multifamily Live is designed to cover everything from acquisition to asset management. You can be confident that you'll leave this event with a comprehensive understanding of commercial investing. Mark your calendars for May 9th to May 11th. Trust me, this is an event you won't want to miss. Ready to enhance those passive streams of income? Get your ticket now, and together, let's take the next step to enhance our financial well-being, to live abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. I'll see you in Multifamily Live. Welcome, Jaryd. I'm delighted to be back with you again today. As I stated before we started recording here, we were together a couple of weeks ago on your show, and it really truly was one of the more interesting and invigorating interviews I've had in a long time. So I'm so delighted to be back with you today and really continue this conversation. So where I'd like to start is dissatisfaction is, it seems to be a stimulus for many of us in terms of a gateway to insightful and meaningful transformative experiences in our life. And you had started out in your career as a plumber, and as trades go, plumbers do pretty well financially, and with your managerial and entrepreneurial talents, you could have taken that trade and you could have gone from being a plumber to a manager to an owner, operator, and developed a considerable amount of wealth throughout that particular track. But you chose to leave that, and I'm just interested in what was the dissatisfaction in that particular direction in your life.
I love that question, Alan. Thank you so much, and also thanks for coming on my podcast. Thank you for inviting me on yours as well. I believe that was an invigorating conversation we had on mine, so thank you again. To answer your question, I actually tried to start my own plumbing business, and there was the natural progression. So I became an apprentice, and I did get groomed from very young to become a supervisor, and I was a supervisor of a plumbing firm, the first plumbing firm until they went bankrupt, and then a sequential one after that. And I could have gone out on my own. I was traveling, I was quitting work and then traveling and coming back every now and then back to the same role. And I realized that I wanted to build wealth and make money, and I needed to start my own business. And I knew that becoming a gas plumber pays higher. So I tried to start getting work as a gas plumber, and I just couldn't get work as a gas plumber. So I thought, if I can't get work as a gas plumber, how am I ever going to be able to build a business as a gas plumber if there's no work around? So that was one thing that was a hiccup in the whole situation towards maybe me becoming owning a plumbing business. What was more important, I would say, in me transitioning from plumbing to being an online business owner was that I didn't want to be on the tools at 40 to 50 to 60 or 60. would see a lot of old tradespeople or construction workers, with their bodies just absolutely broken, living a not very healthy lifestyle at all. And it's also, I don't know what it's like in America and other places in the world, but I know in Australia it can be a toxic environment with too much testosterone and ego, and it was just, there was a lot of all of that combined was something I just wanted to get away from, specifically not working a job for my whole life. Yeah.
Well, you've certainly been successful in making that transition. And so, if you don't mind, I'd like to really kind of talk about that journey from essentially what you were doing as a plumber, and most people do in the world, is we exchange our time and our skills, our talents, our creativity for money. For me, I mean, you can define wealth in all sorts of different ways, but for me, wealth is really that transition when we can go from using our time, effort, energy, skills, creativity to generate income, to utilizing our money to actually generate income. And you've been successful in making that transition. So a lot of studies have been done in conjunction to happiness and wealth and life subjective well-being, which are happiness and subjective well-being are measured in two different ways. But anyway, what I'm curious about, it's not been that long. You started your business in, I think it was 2016, and so it's relatively new that you have made that transition. And so if you could just share what it has been like in terms of your subjective well-being, your overall satisfaction with life, and your happiness, with which happiness is an emotion. It comes, it goes. Sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad. Subjective well-being is our overall evaluation of how we feel about our life. So how has it been to make that transition?
Wow, it's a big question. How has it how is it now, living the life that I have now? Or how has it been throughout the different stages?
Well, really, how has it been throughout the different stages?
Yeah, great question. So I equate happiness to being peace, right? Which is, happiness is like a different flavor of peace, and peace is another sort of, I would say, flavor of love. And I think that's what we're all trying to achieve, is I think the real wealth is having time to be able to do what you love with the people that you love, and that's what my goal is to help people achieve as well. And at the start, it was gruesome and brutal. There was a lot of sacrifice. There was not a lot of peace. There was a lot of turmoil going on in my brain to, I would say, what I had learnt from influences, which I think is a toxic trait and a limiting belief, is to hustle your way into, or hustle your way out of a certain job or situation or into passive income. And that was tough. That was really, really tough. I bought my first, I tried to start an online business, right? Through the drinking, through being a plumber and not liking my life and high stress, being a young kid, I guess, between 19 and 22, running these big shopping centers, like the supervisor for big shopping centers, and my workers were 40-year-olds being told what to do by this young hot shot, or what they thought was some young hot shot dude who didn't have as much quote unquote unexperience as them. I didn't get treated very well, and I turned to, some dark things like drinking alcohol excessively, and so that was a very tough period, and that was a big push and help push me towards try to start my own online businesses. I was literally quitting my job and running away, right? I was quitting my job and going traveling to get away from that lifestyle. And on one of the trips, I was living in Egypt, and I decided to type into Google how to travel the world and make money online because I didn't want to go back to it. And that's when that journey started. That was in 2013. I started a business, and I didn't really make much money. And then I started an e-commerce business and didn't really make much money. And through this period, I was trying to figure out how this whole thing really worked. Mm-hmm. And I came across a stat that 90% of all startups fail. And I thought, well, if 90% of these things fail, why don't I go away and save my money and buy an online business that's past that 90% failure rate, and I can grow it, I can run it. I knew how to run things. I was a supervisor and had my head screwed on in that department at least then. And so I bought my first business in 2014, and which was very hard because I was still trying to make these other startups work. And then I bought this business and it was already making money. I thought, well, let's just focus more on this. And that worked well. And then I bought another one in 2015. And through those two businesses, I started to earn more money from those two businesses than my role as a plumber. And then I was able to leave at the end of 2015, bought another business in 2016. And then that's where people started to, and I got invited to a bunch of business events, and people wanted me to jump on stage and teach them, what I was doing and stuff. And I realized there was quite a market for people wanting to learn how to acquire online businesses, or mostly a similar market to what your listeners is wanting a passive income to not have to work, a job that is monotonous, right? Even if we love our job, it can become monotonous. And yeah, I just started teaching in 2016 so up until, even through 2016 through to like 2019, end of 2019, it was not the happiest of lives. I was happy because I was happier than where I was as a plumber because I was able to travel and I had more flexibility and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I got to a point in business that I didn't work hard and I settled and I started to have more fun in my life. And when that brought me more joy, I was able to become far more productive and work less hours and get a better ROI, and realize that the hard work did not equate to success at all. In fact, for me, the more joy and the more fun I had, the better I could show up in the areas that were important in my life, and that's when it allowed me to make more money. I literally had to prescribe myself, and from health doctors and stuff like that when I got sick from working too much, it's like, you need to do less work. And that less work allowed me to magnetize more opportunity and money in the areas that were a part of my journey and have been a part of my life. And that had allowed me, when I slowed down, instead of being just happy, what most people call is like, I'm just happy, I was literally able to become peaceful, more peaceful, I would say. And that's kind of, I guess, how it evolved. And that's achieving that level of happiness sort of evolved for me, I guess.
Well, thanks for sharing that journey, Jaryd. And I think there's a lot of lessons in what you just shared with us. One is that entrepreneurialism is not this panacea, that it takes work and it takes effort. And unless we're born into wealth, I think you mentioned that there was a lot of sacrifice starting out. And I think that's probably not unusual. I don't think that many of us are fortunate enough to just go out there and find that immediate diamond in the rough and instantaneously turn an entrepreneurial experience into a successful endeavor. I think it takes time, effort, and energy to do that. At least everyone I've talked to has been down that road and down that journey. And
Definitely.
I think the other lessons that we found from what you just shared with us is that there does come a time and a place where we have to really step back and do some evaluation and determine if this expenditure and these sacrifices are really taking us in the direction we want to go. So excellent lessons there. There's one study. I don't know in Australia if it's been that well cited, but it was Kahneman and Deaton did a study in 2010. It's an oft cited study, and what they had really essentially determined is that happiness increases in conjunction or correlation with wealth up to about 108,000 US dollars, and at that point it tables off, and life satisfaction and happiness doesn't necessarily increase after that particular point. People get to a point where they're comfortable and all of their needs are met, and they have extra money for things that they want to do. Some more recent studies, actually in 2021, looking at actually 34,000 people, they reported in on ongoing events in their life. And this particular researcher, I think it was Klingman, I can't remember for sure, the researcher, discovered that in fact there is no cap to that in fact there is a correlation, that the more wealthy one becomes, the more immediate happiness that they have. And he looked at immediate happiness as compared to evaluative happiness, which is really looking at life satisfaction. And he discovered that there actually is a correlation between increasing wealth and increasing happiness and increasing life satisfaction. So start at that turning point, when you came to that point in that time where you realized that you've got to start cutting back, you've got to start really enjoying life. Take us from that moment on up till today.
It's a really good question. So I got pretty sick through 2018. And I was working really, really hard, and I built out my team in this business to be significant for where I was previously. And I got so sick that I didn't, I got really, really sick, and I got glandular fever, and I worked through it. And I went to an alternate health doctor for like 18 months later for something completely different. And she said, "Oh, did you know that were you pretty sick, 18 months ago?" I said, "Oh, I was, but I don't know, I was working." And I was working ridiculous hours, right? Like, my work ethic is pretty crazy. I'm a high achiever, and that's great, but it's also a double-edged sword. And so with that, that glandular fever, it turns into Epstein-Barr virus, and there's like 4 different classes or stages of Epstein-Barr virus, 4 being the worst, where it's through your brain, your organs, and your blood. I had it not through my brain, but I had it through my organs and my blood, and it was pretty severe, and I didn't have much energy, and so I had to go on this protocol to heal this. It was a natural health protocol, but at the same time I was prescribed to not surf more than 15 minutes at one session. Today I'll surf for 3 hours, and before that I was surfing for 3 hours per session, 2 to 3 hours per session, and not work so many hours. And that didn't happen to me, I probably would have kept working really, really hard and making more and more money, because I had this thing in my head that I associated with more money equals more happiness. And I can see where it can equal immediate happiness, and I can see where it does compound on each other. But also I think there's this equation where you have something running in your mind that you need more wealth, and if you're needing more wealth to prove to the world or prove a point to somebody, then I believe that is a mental health issue. Yeah. Well, my goal is not to become a billionaire. Billionaires, some may absolutely love the workload, and that's just innate in them. I also have a belief that possibly there could be some of them that have a mental health issue, that they need to prove something to the world that they're good enough, or prove to themselves or somebody or anything that they're good enough. And for me, I had this mental health issue that I needed to prove a point. And then I eventually got to a certain stage, and it was past the $100,000 a year range, that I realized
We just
I've got enough.
lost.
I've got enough for all my living expenses. I've got enough for life and to do the things that I want to achieve. What am I like? Do I like people? These people that I need to prove a point to, they don't care about me, right? There's a really good quote that people will spend money they don't have on things that they don't like to impress the people. Sorry, they'll spend money on people spend money on things that they spend the money they don't have on the things that they don't like or don't need to impress the people that they don't like. So, for example, people, spending finance on a fancy car that they don't need to impress the people that, are just judging them. Mm-hmm. So, for me, I realized I knew that I was wealthy and I knew that I had money and I was riding a scooter around. I upgraded to like a Hyundai, which is not a fancy car. I lived pretty cheaply and that allowed me to be far happier because I had a knowing that I've got enough and I am enough. And I think you could probably achieve that with less than the $100,000 price range a year, of course. However, I think it's a lot easier to achieve that when you do have those finances and you don't need to, put too much time, effort, and input and sell like your skills and your IP. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think that happened around the 2019 mark for me. So probably, 5 years ago. And I started to notice this with some people that started to interview me. They had interviewed me previously and then came back a year or two later and interviewed me again. And they were like, what's changed? You're very different. Like I wasn't as sporadic or erratic in my approach to life, and I was a lot more calm, and I think that is wealth.
Yeah. Enlightened investors, if you haven't done so already, be sure and click that like button and also click that share so others can take advantage of the content. And finally, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single one of our upcoming episodes. Wow, that is really powerful, powerful stuff. And much of the research is backing just exactly what you said, that money can boost happiness and subjective well-being when it is a result, but when it is actually our driving goal, it can make us extraordinarily miserable.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Yeah. So we are talking today with Jaryd Krause, and he is the owner and founder of Buying Online Businesses, and you can find him at buyingonlinebusinesses.com. Jaryd, you've developed wealth. You've developed wealth actually in really, essentially, it sounds to me like really all 5 areas of well-being, and that is you have a lot of positive emotions. You are able to engage in not just your vocation, but in your avocations, and to do it passionately. You use these things to enhance your relationships, and you have, it seems to me, a profound purpose and meaning in life, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But the fifth area of flourishing and abundantly is achievement, and you've done really all of these things. Talk to us about what really is your purpose, your meaning. Why are you here on this planet?
Wow, this is cool. This is a really cool question. I think I would be lying if I said I had all the answers on my purpose, on why I'm here. I think I'm still figuring it out, and I'm still evolving and wanting to become a better servant. Overall, I believe the answer is to serve and heal, and lead. And initially I didn't want to be a leader. I just wanted to make a bunch of wealth and just hide. But through the work that I've done, I've realized that my story has helped a lot of people to show it can be done. And that, I guess, is a form of leadership. And yeah, I don't know, I could get into a bit more technically and break down like how I serve and all that sort of stuff, but I believe like overall, like that's what I'm here for. I think that's what most of us are here for. And it's just really, I think the tough thing is to work out what is it that how are you going to serve in a way that allows you to have a fulfilling life and invigorates you whilst you're serving. For me, I love these discussions. Talking is one way, and sharing stories for me. Also business. I've been grateful enough to learn a lot of business and have some great mentors. And that's what, like, I can talk business all day. I can talk stories all day. I can talk personal development and growth all day. So definitely speaking is one way that I serve, and helping people acquire companies and businesses that can allow them to have this space and time to help them to evolve, to work out, how they can serve in a fulfilling way in their life.
Well, we just met a couple of weeks ago, but from our first meeting, I have been impressed with you, not because you're a successful business person, although that is certainly impressive, but I have been impressed by you because it's obvious that you have put time, effort, energy, thought into your personal development, and it comes across very powerfully. And so I want you to take a few moments here to actually share with us what your business is, because I really believe you when you tell me that you operate your business. Certainly, it's your wealth creator. You're doing it, of course, to make money. But I believe you when you say you're doing it to serve other people. So tell us about your business.
Yeah, I started the business to make money for myself selfishly at the start. And I soon realized that, like, wow, this is bigger than me. And I'm doing bigger work than I thought I was. My initial goal was like, let's just make money so I never have to work again. And then it moved into, oh wow, like this is a game changer. Like if I can help parents buy a business, and then they can teach their kids to buy a business, they can teach their kids to buy a business. And if I can help parents, become financially independent, that helps them become better parents and raise children better, give them more love, which is all they need, right? I think I see a lot of parents like, oh, my kids need a bigger and better house and these toys. I'm like, they don't need that. They need the love. And the time with you whilst they've got it before they get to like 16. It's like, Dad, I ain't got time with you, man, anymore. Like I'm hanging out with my friends when I'm 16 plus. So for how the business works is typically people will find me through podcasting or YouTube channel talking about passive income and replacing their income. And how it's done is through my story is, buying a business that's past that 90% failure rate and acquiring it and growing it. Sometimes it's very similar to real estate. I love real estate. I've bought a bunch of real estate as well. And it's just a similar asset where you can purchase an online business, renovate it, and flip it for more. You can purchase a great asset and let it grow over time slowly, and reap the benefits from it and get the good compounding from it. You can buy different types of assets, like instead of residential and all these different types of residential and all the different types of commercial. In online business, you can acquire a media business. So you can buy a website, like a blog, a YouTube channel, Facebook account, Instagram account, any of those sorts of media businesses, podcasts, anything, newsletter. or you could buy an e-commerce business, or you could buy a software as a service or membership business. So what we do is we help people work out what skills they do or don't have, and match them with the amount of capital they have, and match them with the business that is going to be best for them to acquire. And then we teach them how to find the businesses and do due diligence, and they submit those due diligence to us. We review them before they make an offer, and then they go make an offer, negotiate, and settle on the deal. That's for businesses under the $1 million price range. Above the $1 million price range, I act as a buy-side mergers and acquisition advisor, where people will come to me with the capital they have, and it might be a human being saying they want to buy something between 1 to 10 mil, or it might be a company saying, I want to buy a part of the market, I want to buy an audience. They might have, say they got $20 million in marketing budget a year, and they say, we're going to spend $10 million on Facebook ads and Google ads, and we might spend $10 million on an acquisition. And it might be a strategic acquisition where they might be selling, say, drink bottles, or let's just say they're selling, I love surfing, right? So say they're selling surfboards. They've got a business where they're already selling surfboards. What they might want to do is they might want to go acquire a media company or a media business, maybe a podcast that's talking about, how to buy the right surfboard, or how to surf better, or learn to surf, or they might buy a blog or a YouTube channel. And they're buying an audience with an email list of people that are in that space of surfing, and then they can take that, they can acquire that, so they're buying that audience, and then they can, merge that into their primary business, and help them scale and serve more people through that. So, yeah, that's the nitty gritty of kind of how we help people either replace their income or build larger portfolios in the online business space.
Well, basically, if a person is interested in purchasing online businesses, where do they start?
Education. Yeah, it's a really good question, Alan. Start with education first and work out how much money you have, what sort of business you would like to acquire, and then you can start out by looking for those businesses on website brokers. So you can type into Google website brokers. We also sell businesses from our site, buyingonlinebusinesses.com. But there's a bunch. If you just Google website brokers or online business brokers, you can go and find these businesses for sale. And it's much like looking at real estate online as well. You see how much the listing price is, but with these businesses, you can see how much they're making, what their expenses are, how much time it costs to run the business for the owner, and or the assistants or virtual assistants or the team and the staff. And you can look at, once you sign a letter of intent, or you sign a non-exclusive, a non-compete agreement, or a what do we call it, an NDA. You can sign an NDA, and then you can get access to a bunch of information from them. Non-disclosure agreement. My mind just went blank. I don't know why. And you can get a bunch of information, then you can start to do your due diligence, and then move into possibly purchasing it. So that's kind of where it starts. But I would definitely be starting with education and working out what's the right sort of amount for you and the right asset. I'm always telling people to not spend all the capital they have, right? So if your goal is to replace your income, typically that's not your goal. Typically your goal is less stress and more time frame, right? Not to just replacing your income is the route. It's the road that you're driving across. The vehicle is the online business that you're acquiring, but the real goal is less stress. Now, if you're going to spend all of your capital, or say, for example, even if you quit your job and then you spend all of your capital, you need to make this thing work. So you've got so much emotion tied into it. I typically tell people to keep their job, buy something, not with all their capital, maybe 80% of their capital, keep 20% for, maybe growth in the business, or in case something happens to the business and or a health thing in your life, and then, build the business up over time, and then transition into a larger business if you need to, or keep the business growing. Because the goal really is, or what we like to teach people is, we like to help people so they can, replace their income and spend more time doing what they love with the people they love. I think that's the main goal.
Well, in listening to you and considering the similarities between real estate investing and purchasing online businesses, well, you've mentioned an LOI and an NDA. All of those things are familiar to real estate investors.
Yeah.
In real estate investing, it's of course very common to syndicate the purchases of real estate, and in the syndication process, there's the active investors and the passive investors.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to do the same kind of similar arrangements in doing online purchasing of online businesses?
Absolutely, there is. I have people in our community that look to buy businesses together and invest together and work out the roles of who's going to do what in the operations of the business. Now, with online businesses compared to real estate, it can get a little bit messier because there can be more management of an online business than with a property. You can have one manager managing a tenant, and you can have a bunch of like pretty passive investors, or you could have like one person do the renovations, and the renovations are typically going to stop at a certain point. And then, they might flip it, and then you get your passive investors paid out, and maybe one person is a tradesperson that's doing the renovations on that property. So with online business, it can be a little bit more complex. For businesses typically under the 6-figure range, you can buy a business for $20,000 and up, right? You can buy them for like $10,000 and up. I typically tell people to not go too low, because then you're buying a startup, and like I said, 90% of startups fail. It's a lot more work and then a lot more stress, and that's not what you're actually looking for typically. So with the larger acquisitions, then you can have more silent investors. You can acquire a business that already has a team, and they can operate the business, and then you can all sit on the board, I guess, for these like mid 6-figure range businesses up until the tens of millions of dollars. Then it becomes a bit more possible. On the lower end, it's a little bit harder. I mean, it can be done, but it just adds that layer of complexity. Like anything in life, the lower you start, the harder it can be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and it's the same way in real estate.
Yeah.
There are people who syndicate with 30-unit apartments, but generally speaking, it's going to be a minimum of 50. Generally speaking, really probably the sweet spot is more like 150 units. So, so I can see the similarity there as well. Well, Jaryd, where are you going from here?
In terms of business or life?
Or
both?
Well, both.
Where am I going from here? So from here, in terms of life, I don't know.
Who does, yeah.
Yeah, who does? I live in Bali. It's a great life. I surf a lot. And I love where I'm at. I'm very, very happy. I can't see myself changing too much on the lifestyle, because this is what I've been working for a long time. I'm always constantly working on making sure I've got the lifestyle that fills me up, lights me up. Work-wise, I am going to continue in the business and continue helping people replace their income and achieve that goal. What I'm working on more now is just larger acquisitions. As I've grown in the space and my name has started to spread, and the work that I have done is starting to become more recognized, I've got people with bigger pockets coming to me wanting to acquire larger businesses and advise and sit on the board with deals and stuff like that. I won't be acquiring businesses with getting equity in the business, so that is an option, but I'm just going to act as a fiduciary, a buy-side mergers and acquisition advisor. As this evolves more and I start to, like I said, gain more attention, I will start speaking more, and I'll be sharing more around my personal life. And like you mentioned before, the personal development. I started personal development 21 years ago. I got obsessed. I got my first book, it was a Tony Robbins book, 21 years ago. So 2 decades of personal development since I was 15. I'm 36 now. And yeah, it's that has been the foundation of evolution in my life. more so than business development. And I believe that mindset and having the right mental health is imperative for everything that you want to achieve. And I'll start sharing more of that as speaking gigs evolve. So that's kind of where it will evolve into. And it might change. It might change over the decades. I'm in this for life because I love it. It gives me so much joy. So, yeah, I guess that's the answer for now, as it might change and evolve, as everything does.
Yeah. Well, yes, if we're not growing, we're dying. So
Correct. Yeah.
Well, we are visiting today with Jaryd Krause, and a delightful conversation indeed that we have had. You can find Jaryd at buyingonlinebusinesses.com, and I know that you're going to want to contact Jaryd for many reasons, as an example of how we can be in life and an example of how we can be successful as entrepreneurs as well. Jaryd, thanks so much for being with us today. It's been a delight having you.
Thank you, Alan. It's my absolute pleasure. Such a great conversation. I really appreciate our connection and the work that you do in the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Enlightened investors, wait, don't go just yet. I just want to remind you about our recently launched webinar that you will not want to miss. If you're at all curious and would like to learn more about how real estate investing can diversify your investment portfolio, alleviate the anxiety associated with Wall Street swings, leverage your 401ks and IRAs to substantially increase the return on your investment, and do all of this with turnkey, hands-off passive real estate investments, then you'll want to immediately go to stevetalker.com/webinar. In the webinar, we'll also address the common dubious investment schemes that you want to avoid. To access the webinar, go to stevetalker.com/webinar. I look forward to seeing you in the webinar.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Estate Investing Abundance, brought to you by Steve Talker Capital, a company working for passionate professionals like you to develop financial independence built on solid, passive real estate investments. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steve Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steve Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures, great and small, flourish abundantly. For resources to develop your financial independence, connect with us at stevetalker.com.